Hello, everyone. And hello to everyone in the chat, too.
Hi, Greg.
How are you doing, Eowyn?
Awesome. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, we missed you last week. Glad
Thanks.
you're back.
I'm really happy to be here.
Excellent. We have a full house here today. This is great.
We do. We have a WikiTree party going on.
It's a WikiTree party. Yes, a tech party. It's super. So maybe I'll just let everyone go around and introduce themselves. I'm Greg Clark, app developer, Hacktoberfest here, and host for this. And over to you, Chris.
I'm Chris Whitten. I'm the founder of WikiTree. Over to you.
Point the officer. Yeah, that's right.
I'm Mindy, and I'm a team member, and I'm in charge of the challenges.
Eowyn?
Off to one of them. Eowyn or Alesh?
I'm Eowyn. I'm the forest elf. I do stuff.
She does a lot of different stuff. She's just there.
Oh, next. Okay, Alesh?
Alesh Turtnik. I'm also a team member, and I also developed and support WikiTree Plus. That is a service running in parallel to WikiTree.
Excellent. And I'm excited because we have two people who we don't often get together on these live casts, and I think for Prashmek, it's his first. So if you can you can introduce yourself and pronounce your name properly.
I'm Przemek. Yeah, so I'm from Poland, and I'm trying to contribute from time to time, like my programming skills to the community. I'm the author of the Topola visualization, if anyone uses that. And yeah, and this week I'm calling in from a hotel room. I'm out of town. Yeah. Hello.
That's great. And Brian.
I'm Brian Casey. I'm the, main developer and system administrator on WikiTree.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, welcome all of you. This is very exciting to have such a full house. And let's see who we have in the chat. We have Mohavaline is here, and Hillary, Tommy Buck, Debbie Root, Stuart, Kathy Nava is here, and anyone else who's here in the chat, just say hello, and we're glad that you're here joining us as well. So Chris, I'm excited to have you here on camera with us. So you said you're the founder of WikiTree. So in programming terms, we would call you WikiTreeer 0, because what you may or may not know, when programmers have a list of items, we call that an array. But arrays always start at number 0 as the first item. So you would be WikiTreeer number 0, the original WikiTreeer. So that's exciting to have you here.
Yeah, I think of myself as number 32 because in our ordinal ID system,
that's your user ID.
There were a bunch of IDs before my own.
Ah, I see. Well, that's 2 to the power 5, which is a very cool number as well. So nice. Yes.
You're such a math nerd.
Love it.
I am guilty as charged.
My wife is too, so I know what it's like.
Oh, good. Excellent. So I was just wondering if, so when we started our Hacktoberfest, or you and the team came up with Hacktoberfest, I'm wondering just, or some of the things you were hoping would happen, and sort of some of your rationale behind it. I think it's going great, and I'm really happy that it's happening.
Yeah, I'm blown away with how well it's going. We really didn't expect this much engagement, and the back and forth has just been incredible. The pace of it, the sophistication of it. So it's fantastic. It's not something that we came up with. Hacktoberfest is something they've been doing for, maybe close to a decade. In the general open source community, but anybody can participate in it. So we decided to participate this year.
And it was just kind of perfect timing because a lot of things had recently fallen into place for us in where open source fits into WikiTree. You know, WikiTree is all about collaboration. It's always been about broad-based community collaboration. But for the longest time, you know, that was primarily about the content, you know, about the genealogy and not the technology. The development was still very centralized. You know, Brian and I and the team have done so much. We did, you know, we have had the API and apps for a while now, you know, and some great things have been developed by you and Jamek and others. But they've always sort of stood aside from WikiTree. You know, we've had WikiTree here, and then, you know, there are these apps and extensions that really feel like add-ons. And, you know, we've just kind of recently figured out a plan for really making them much more integrated. And so, as you know, and have touched on in the past, you know, so it's two basic parts. So it's the dynamic tree views, and it's the browser extension. And those two correspond to the two basic parts of WikiTree. So on the one hand, there's the viewing and accessing genealogy, and that corresponds to the dynamic tree. And then on the other side, there's the research and editing and contributing, and that corresponds to the extension.
That's great. Yeah.
Now, Susie did have a question here. Will these improvements work on iPads?
I can tell you the dynamic views do work. At least the ones that I've tested out will work on them. I'm not sure if they all work really well on a smartphone. I can't promise you that. I can tell you if you have a fan chart that has 10 generations, the smartphone may not be your weapon of choice. Now the browser extensions to modify the views a little bit. There are a few of them that are a little glitchy in a touch interface. Some of the language is not quite correct, and there's been a few cases where some of the dragging or resizing, it mostly works. You know, we're just using a sort of standard canvas, so it should work. But you know, as we find bugs, we are trying to add them to the list and get them fixed. The goal is for the views to work in, you know, any device except, you know, obviously some have so much data in it that they'll overwhelm a tiny screen, but that would be true of other places on WikiTree too. So, right. Yeah. Thanks, Brian. And then Stephen has a follow-up question. Will it be used in Firefox or other browsers other than Chrome?
Funny, we were just discussing that before it went live. I think
Yes.
absolutely it should. I was testing things in Firefox and it worked, but there's clearly some JavaScript browser dependencies that we, I think, don't want long-term that were causing some issues with Safari. I think, you know, all modern versions of browsers we should be able to support. It's mostly standard JavaScript, so I'm not sure where we've gone awry, and we're not going to try to support, you know, IE9 or something. That would be painful. But certainly, you know, Safari and Firefox and Chrome and Edge, you know, the modern versions of browsers should at some point all work.
Excellent. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Right before it went live.
For extension,
okay.
It will probably develop. It is slightly different development for Firefox and Safari, but that's all part of the plan, although we are still first trying to get it to work.
Right. And which browser are you? Are people
we are most of the users work on Chrome, as I know.
Chrome. Okay. And do the extensions? Can the extensions work on iPads at all, or no?
I think Safari supports them, although I'm not sure. Yeah, they were talking about Safari. Okay. I think.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, which the rest of you don't know is 5 minutes before he went live, I threw Brian a bomb, a question that sort of made him dive down a rabbit hole, but he got out of that rabbit hole with 30 seconds left to go. So that was pretty impressive, and solved the problem. So, Very neat. So as Chris mentioned, there's two main aspects to this project. And this week we're going to focus more on the dynamic view, the dynamic tree view. But before we go into that in detail, I thought maybe Alesh, if you could talk about some of the work that's happened this week in the browser extensions, some of the things that have gone on.
Yeah, well, most of I'm surprised. It seems that all browser extensions will be ported to this one. So, I mean, all the programmers for the participate. So, I think we will end up with a single extension that will do everything. So, it's been done a lot of work on organization, and we are trying to get for all extension to work in a similar way, make common user interface, so it would the end users actually wouldn't even see from who developed some part of the code. So this is mostly what was happening this week. I think still not all extensions are already in the developed in the active version, but all developers are working on it. So I think by next week all of existing ones will be functional.
That's very exciting. That's very exciting. Yeah, I noticed in the Discord I saw some back and forth. The WikiTree B, that's Ian, right? He's working on that, and Kay Knight is starting to work on getting her biocheck incorporated later today or tomorrow. She says, excellent. That's a huge amount of work. But she shared me a screenshot with that, which is very cool. So when you're in the edit screen, I hope I'm not giving it away. Okay, sorry. When you're at the edit screen, or after you've saved a draft, there'll be a note that'll pop up, or a text that'll give you a biocheck synopsis, that looks like this is unsourced, or one of the other messages from the biocheck app or something that just sort of magically appears, which is pretty impressive. Cool. Yeah, very cool. Jamek, did you do any work with the extensions this week? I think you did. One of the things you did was organizational, right? Which is key to a project like this.
Yeah, so I finally managed to get my change in, doing changing the structural directories, getting the build system running, modules, so that's people adding more things don't mess up other people's work. So I hope the organization will work better, since this is gonna be a big project.
It's great. Thank you for that. That's super.
Yeah.
Wow. So, are there any other questions about the extensions in the chat?
I haven't seen any new ones yet. I have a question though, Greg. How about for those of us that just love the current extensions? Is the interface going to be any different for us once this is brought into just the WikiTree? I mean, is it going to be kind of spread out? Do you understand what I'm asking? Or
I do, and I know I've seen some chat about where we put certain functions, or I say we, but I'm not programming any of the extensions, so I mean them. Whether that means adding things to menus or making submenus. Alesh, I think you were part of that discussion, and I don't know if you can answer that.
Yeah, well, it will be on, it seems it will be in 3 places. One part will be integrated into existing WikiTree menus. Then we will probably use the line where the categories shortcut is and comments shortcut right under the tabs. That will a few extensions are added there. They usually show in place, and the third group of will be on next to the toolbar in edit modes. So when you are editing any page, you will get the goodies that are needed for editing. So I think these three places will mainly be, and then there are a few extensions that alter the behavior of the site. So I don't know that you have space page preview on hover, on hint, and so on. So those are just integrated into the page wherever.
Right.
They don't have something to start it.
Right. Yes. So Judy has a question about needing to. Do you need to reload the extensions? So I
reload. Well, each time. After the extension will be published on the store, you will just install it, and it will be updated probably once a month, and it updates automatically. But now, if you are looking at the preview of the development version, you have to download it from the developing site from GitHub, and then unpack it and reload it, and then it works. So there are a few steps there described on the GitHub, so it is possible, but just for those who are interested in development or testing it, or because we are welcoming the suggestions to make something differently than it is done.
Right. Yeah. So while we're still in this development mode, it is a bit more work. You do have to manually reload every improvement update, but the final version should auto load. Right. So that's good. Excellent. And Judy does have a suggestion or a question. Has anyone considered adding "and" in between the parents' names in edit mode? That would be might be an easy one. I don't know. I shouldn't say that because I'm not doing into that program. Maybe you can.
Ian might do it.
Alex might do that. Okay. Cool. Great. So let's shift gears and talk about the dynamic tree. And Brian, you've headed up that part of the project. And you're the one who gets hassled every time that one of us wants to push in or make a pull request, which seems funny to me. When I've done an update, I do a pull request, but I think it should be called a push request because I'm trying to push it onto you. But anyways, that's the terminology that GitHub uses. So how are things going from your point of view?
I think it's been really neat. The ability for other people to really contribute to the way WikiTree is going to look and work into the future, I think is great. And I'm hoping that it snowballs and that all of the work being put in now to sort of generalize things and make the view code a little bit more accessible so that other people can either add new views or polish up existing views. Going forward, I'm hoping that continues to grow. And one of the things I was working on this week was integrating the collaborative version into the main WikiTree website, so people will be able to see that view that comes down from the menu on a profile when you select dynamic tree. That view will be the version that updates, so that all of these contributions can be seen and stuff. So. There's always organizational bits and, bugs show up and things like that, like you do with any sort of rapidly developing early stages project. But I feel like it's going pretty well. Everybody's been congenial, about, the various issues at hand. And it's nice that the views are separate, so somebody can throw in a view and it doesn't disturb any of the others for the most part. So, I think it's been good.
Good. Excellent. Okay. Well, I'm going to share my screen now, and going to give you a little bit of a peek behind the screen, behind the curtain is the word I want. Yes.
Greg, if I could interject,
sure can.
Just give a little more context to connect with what Brian said and what you're saying. So what you're going to look at is sort of like the current development version of the dynamic tree.
Yeah.
And Brian was talking about making that be, the dynamic tree that people can see on the live version of the site. And then even moving forward, there's another level to this, is we actually do plan on replacing our family tree pages with the dynamic tree. So ultimately, that's what we're going to be moving towards, is the family tree and tools pages that you see on WikiTree now, which are really like, the center of that UI for browsing genealogy, is eventually going to be replaced with the dynamic tree. That's the plan we have. So it's sort of like three different, levels of integration.
Right. Okay. I remember you reading that somewhere too, but I had lost that thread. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. Okay, so first off, let me find. Wait a second. Okay. Too many screens and they're not playing nicely with each other. There we go. Add to the stream. So one of the things I asked at the beginning of this, I asked some of the programmers to share what their programming setup looked like. So I thought I would show you what that looks like. So this is Schneck's programming this week because he's in a hotel room. So Schneck, you win the award for minimalist most effective use of small space.
I think Jamie was also on the airport, so
yes. Well,
there.
She's in the air right now. That's right. Yeah, or in the airport. So she can't join us, but she didn't send me a picture. But she did mention in the chat that she's looking forward to getting back to her home office because the computer she's working on has keys that don't work, has an enter key that just fires indiscriminately. So halfway through a message, she said the message appears and then finishes in the next line. So I don't have a picture of that, but you can all imagine poor Jamie having to work on that. Kay sent us, this is her setup, very nice and neat and organized. And she also shared her husband's setup. And this is him, an amateur radio operator. That looks more like my desk, normally looks like. But because I knew I was going to be on camera, I cleaned up my desk, and this is what this is my setup. There's usually stuff covering. You don't always get to see the brown faux leather. But anyways, there's my graph pad, in case I need to make graphs. Of course, brand new studio display monitor that I bought, and other monitors. So, and there's my iPad that I can check things out, and of course my trusty TARDIS mug. Brian, you sent me a picture too, and let's see if I can find that one. Shoot, where'd it go? I don't know where your picture went. It downloaded here, but it's not in my thing. Sorry, Brian.
That's right. It's not important.
But the winner of the best desk, the one that I covet, is Steve Harris's setup with a quad monitor, 4 monitors all going at the same time, and a laptop. And I think he has a full desktop underneath all of this as well. So he's really, I think he wins the award for Power User of the Week. Anyways, I just thought that might be amusing to share with you. But anyways, for those who aren't programmers, who are a little curious about what we do and behind, this is the program that I use to actually write the code in. It's called Visual Studio Code. And so I can click on a file and then type in the commands, blah, 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 blah. But then when I need to get that update to the programming language onto the internet so that Brian can then integrate it into WikiTree, then what we have to use is a site called GitHub. And this is the main site. And in fact, right here, I can even make that a little bigger so you can see. All of the work that we do on the dynamic trees actually fits in these few files. There's 9 little text files here and 1 directory that has a folder for each of the different views. So it's actually, it looks like it's a fairly straightforward process, but all the logic and the programming that goes into each of those is a little more complex. So from the main one, 9 different people, including myself, have taken a copy of that, and we're working our own little copy of it. So here's what my little copy is. And I've got sort of 4 different little mini projects branching out from that. In fact, I use the word branch. And then when I add a new feature and it's working and it doesn't break anything else that I know of, then I do what's called a pull request. And then that sends a message to Brian. And then Brian updates, he tests it. And if it doesn't break things on his end, then he pushes it through, and then it goes in part of the live WikiTree, or the live version of this dynamic tree that we're working on. So that's sort of how the programming goes back and forth and how the communication goes. Last week when I showed you, so when we first started out, Brian put together this version of the dynamic tree, and it had basically 2 views, the base one and a restyled one, which is the same sort of thing, but with different colors. And that was what we started with October 1st. And then last week, I showed you how pitiful the fan chart was, how sad it was looking. And the next day, I was just so embarrassed by that I had to at least add the background to it. So this is, I'm showing you basically, in a nutshell, the development, a quick view of my development of the fan chart app on the dynamic tree over this last week. So being embarrassed by how poorly mine looked last week compared to others, I first did the shell of the fan chart. So you can see, let me just scroll up here. And it responds, so you can do the full circle, the fan, or the semicircle, and it responds to that. But this version still relied on bringing in people 1 pair of ancestors at a time. And then, of course, if you did too many, you ran out of the fan. So that was kind of, but, baby steps. So then the next day, see, this is the 11th. So what day is that? So this would be Tuesday, I guess. By Tuesday, I was able to make it so that you could actually go up and down the generations, but you couldn't go past 6. Oh well. But it did still more or less work. But there were some weird things that were happening. Then the 12th. So what do I add on the 12th? This one now allowed you to go all the way up to 10 if you wanted to. And then the 13th, which is today, let's load that puppy up. No, let's load it up for here. On the side here, you'll see these are comments. So these are ones, so if I'm needed to debug things, that's one of the things that programmers can do, is they can show the web page on half of the screen and then show the comments or debugging. So sort of the information, the data in behind. I'm going to close that up because that's not. So here, now the fan chart looks like this. I colored the button bar so it stood out a little bit better. And instead of just names and time span, I give you the full name with a picture. And of course, that can go in either one of those combinations. And you can go up to as many up to 10 generations as well with that.
Cool.
So yeah, so that's the latest version. What the latest version of the fan chart looks like. So
That's awesome.
thanks, Ewan. So it took a while. So some of the things that are different currently with this version from the live app is that in this case, for example, I'm just to get it working, at least at this stage, I sort of made some arbitrary decisions that if you're in the first 5 generations, then show the picture because there is room in the fan, in the wedges for those pictures. But if you go beyond that, then just show the name and the lifespan. Now, in fact, for this one, I could probably put the full dates if I wanted to. But one thing that's different is in the current app, the live app, you either have all the pictures or you have no pictures. This one, it's sort of arbitrary. It chooses pictures until it runs out of room, or it thinks it runs out of room. So that's I guess one of the questions I have for users is, are you okay with that, or should there be an option to show all pictures, or so like maybe have an auto mode which would do this, which would sort of try to do the best it can, or make some logical choices, or have no pictures at all would be an option too, of course. So those are some of the things.
That's what I was going to ask, if we were going to definitely have the option to have no picture showing, if we just want an all text fan chart.
Yeah. And Kay has an excellent point there. I noticed. I don't always pay attention. I can't always pay attention to the comments in the chat, but this one just popped up, so it caught my eye. And definitely having only the pictures if the profile has one makes sense.
That solves your problem, because there's probably no pictures for people born 200 or 300 years ago.
Right. Well, and you know what I've noticed, especially if you go into royalty, is you see a lot of the heraldry used as their profile pic and stuff, which some people like. Yeah, Finnegan wants to join in. My dog Finnegan. Thanks, John. Or maybe it was too geeky for him. He had to leave. So, anyways, that's one of the questions. But I see that Jutta is in. Thank you, Jutta. Is in the chat, and Jutta actually helped me out by I put a call out to ask for help in terms of organizing, prioritizing what features to add, and Jutta responded to that and gave me a nice organized list, which pretty much follows what I would have thought of, but I'm glad that that's sort of, so I appreciate your help with that. The next big thing then, I think the next thing that I have to tackle with this app is putting together an options screen or a settings screen. So when you click on the settings gear here, what I envision is a window will pop up, probably with tabs for the different categories. So names and dates would be one tab. Color palettes might be another. DNA highlights or highlighting might be another one. Those sorts of things. So I'm welcoming input on how to structure that, and how to make that look. So if anyone wants to help me with that, I'd be most grateful. The other thing that I did, a new view I added is a new view, and I'll start with myself for this one, and it's called the Fractal Tree. So when you go to that, this is what you get. So that is 3 generations of from me, and to understand it, it's easiest to understand if you just go back to 1 generation. So there's 1 generation. That's me, and then and then when you click on the 2 generations, you get my parents, my biological father and mother, and then 1 more generation gets their parents. So every person gets their father and mother added, and it basically alternates between a horizontal line between parents and child, or a vertical line between parents and child. And another word for this view is the H tree, because as you can see, at the 3 generations, it looks like a capital H. But the reason why it's called a fractal tree is because it takes that form, that geometric shape basically, and repeats over and over. So you had 4 generations, it's like 2 H's, then there's a big giant H now, see? It just repeats itself and then 6 generations, 7 generations, another giant H, and so on. And you can do up to 10. Oh, I added this message here. You have to wait. Okay. And it tells you when you can go on. There you go. Oh, I have to wait some more. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. There we go. And that's as far as it'll go. Again, I'm maxing it out at 10. But anyway, but because of the zoom feature, you can zoom right in on any one of those little family groupings, as it were. And anyway, so the same, basically a lot of the same logic that I use for the fan chart, I can use for the fractal tree. And so when I add features to the fan chart, I should be able to add most of those same ones in this one. It's just the difference is in the way that's displayed. This one's displayed geometrically like a fractal. The fan chart is more circular in. So
now, Greg, Stephen had another question. If you click in any of the views on a picture on the chart, will it center that person and then have them be the focal point?
It will once. Let's see if that works now. It doesn't work. This feature did work, then it got broken, but it's going to be fixed by, well, I won't say who. Someone did admit that they had made an update that broke that functionality yesterday. So I will thank them when they fix that. But yes, it does do that. In fact, I even changed the icon from the ancestor icon to the fan chart icon. So that will work. Yeah. And I will do the same thing for the fractal tree. I haven't done that yet. But again, once that functionality is fixed globally for this whole thing, and that's one of the cool things about a project like this, you change it. If the function exists at the top level and you change it right, then it just works for everyone else who's used the same function. Of course, if you change it and you break it, then you break it for everyone else. So, there's a bit of both.
Greg, if I could get in on this point.
Yeah.
So not just like switching between people on the fan chart, would we center that? Part of the idea of this integrated dynamic tree with all these different views then is that when you have switched people, that'll carry through. So,
right.
If you were to show now that you go to a different view, you're still starting with that same person.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So, this is very different than what we have now, where we have these standalone apps where you're like always starting from zero.
Right.
This is a way in which it's much more integrated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Brian, do you want to? So the Untitled ancestor list, I believe that was here last week. I think. Yes. And so that one just takes you through and gives you a list of all your ancestors with the number. I think I even geeked out about the numbering system, so I'm pretty sure that was here. The surnames list, was that here last week?
Maybe a very rough draft. I don't remember when it got pushed.
Yeah, I think
I don't believe I've seen that.
Yeah, this is kind of a neat one because again, it goes through your family tree and gives you the names of the surnames. And the larger the surname, the more people with that name, more ancestors with that last name. So I'm the only one with Clark because I was adopted. So my birth father is actually Douglas. But I guess it put it in big because I was at the top of the tree. So,
the sizing is based. It's made bigger in a given row if it's new. It's not based on the number of ancestors with that name, and there's not a surname count going on. This was a replacement to touch back to Chris's point, where we have this separate page that was being generated that had this, and so we kind of pulled it into the dynamic tree where it can be accessed with all of the rest of them. And so partly to replicate that and push it forward, and to have another bit of example code where it's HTML rather than an SVG graphic,
Right.
it was pulled in. But at each row, the sizes get smaller as you go to further and further generations, just from a display point of view. But within a row, like you can see, Rob, that's the first time that Rob appears as you go back from your starting ID.
Right.
And then in the next line, Rob appears, but it's small because that surname has already appeared.
Ah.
And Douglas is big because it's spelled differently.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, the one S and then two S's.
Yep.
Yeah. Look at that. Okay. Well, I learned something new because I thought it was like one of those word clouds where, the size was based on the frequency.
And that would be a really interesting another view to make, actually, because we have counts for surnames. And so if we could expose that from the API, which we can't currently, but we could, then you could make a display that showed your family tree and change the size of the names based on either how many of those names were in your tree with that surname or how common that surname was, generally speaking. There's things like that you could do for sure.
Oh,
That'd be great.
that'd be a cool. Okay, so some other developer I don't have. There's no more room for rabbit holes in this office.
So we have to add a feature to the API first, because I don't think we have the counts exposed. But,
we don't. Okay,
that's a feature request. We're like, for example, this one's going to be much better. There's a thing in the pipeline now to improve the gathering of multiple profiles. And Greg, I imagine this will help the fan chart and the Fractal one. So we'll be able to leverage some of the other stuff we have going on in the background of WikiTree to grab a whole bunch of profiles at once, so that you don't have to iterate through them. Because like this one, you can kind of see it gather in each generation, and it should just grab them all.
You will be able to retrieve the CC7 number in basically 1 or 2 requests, all profiles.
Oh, that would be amazing. So my 6 Degrees app, which currently is not integrated into this, that could make use of that
For
API.
sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll wait till that's done before I add 6 Degrees. Okay, very cool. Okay, and the timeline. Now, I think there's an updated version of the timeline, right? This isn't the most recent version.
I'm trying to remember what the last merge I did. I'd have to look at GitHub. It may have been even today. That
okay. Well, let me see if I can go.
All were merged today, but maybe it was just documentation.
Okay, let's go family timeline. Yeah, this looks a little different. It does look different, yeah. So I'm highlighted here. Oh, what happened? Well, if I highlight Dwight, hey, did you see that?
That's cool.
That's cool. And if I go to Lyle, I can't. I gotta say, growing up, my father was Patrick, and his father was Thomas, and then there was Patrick and Thomas, and on my mom's side it was Alexander and Donald and whatnot. All of a sudden having a Dwight and a Lyle and a Luther in my family tree was wild. Herbert, never had a Herbert before. So, that's very cool. Look at that. You can just go through. Okay, I can't scroll up more. Maybe that. Very neat. Are there other features of this, Brian, that I'm missing? I think that interactivity is very cool.
So I don't remember what all got added to it. I wasn't the main developer of this, so we're leveraging other people in the community, which is great, but it means that I don't know all of the things that are there.
Okay, I have Zoom. I'm using the Zoom. I'm using my trackpad to zoom in and out, but I'm kind of losing. I've lost track of the top part of it, so let me just maybe if I go back to this. Oh, now what have I done?
It just reset the view on you.
What's that?
It just reset to the fan chart view when you reloaded.
Yeah, it didn't actually give me this top part here. So, but anyways, there we go. Okay. Were there other views, or other things you want to talk about, Brian, about the dynamic tree that's happened this week, or views that are almost ready to add that you want to tease us with?
So most of my work in the last week has been either integrating work that like you and others have done, or in sort of the supporting code. A lot of work that several people have done in making the views easier to add and tweaking, fixing some bugs that have showed up in that, and things like that, and working on integrating it into the main WikiTree site, and then adding some features to the API to make the apps easier to write. So that's all kind of behind the scenes at this point. I don't have any new views in development just yet, but it's coming along, and lots of other people are polishing the ones that we have, and with the Fractal view and other things, we're getting new views in as well.
Cool. Good stuff. Any other questions in the chat, Mindy or Eowyn?
No, but may I say something?
You may, Eowyn.
I just want to say this is so exciting, and I can't wait to see how it all comes together. And I want to say a huge thank you to you guys and to everyone else that's working on this, because I think it's just fantastic, and I'm excited.
That's good. That's good.
It's amazing what you guys can do, because I don't have like that technical skill, and so I'm just
Yeah, we're just here as the diehard fans of the extensions. We like our WikiTree toys.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, we like creating them for you. That's great. And you keep us grounded. But we have we have a giveaway, don't we? We can give away a T-shirt.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So do we have a T-shirt winner? That I asked Mindy and Eowyn, you between the two of you, you were supposed to pick a winner while I was blabbing away.
Mindy totally picked a winner.
Mindy totally picked a winner.
Are we picking out of the people that were here?
Yes.
I would say Tommy Buck.
Tommy Buck. Woohoo!
Yay!
Tommy Buck, you win a T-shirt. We haven't had a time to make it into a banner yet, so sorry. But yes, congratulations. You will get an official Hacktoberfest T-shirt. Is that right?
Yes. It's a
Excellent.
lovely orange, a lot like this. Very cool.
Right.
Greg, hopefully you'll have yours soon.
I'm looking forward to having mine too. I actually have a green genealogy one, but it's kind of rumpled and people came online sooner than I expected, so I didn't get a chance to change it.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Excuses. Great.
Anyways, this is a T-shirt I got from one of the math conferences I helped out with. So. Most of my T-shirts are from. So the trick, the challenge is to be involved with WikiTree long enough that I have more WikiTree T-shirts than math T-shirts. But I don't know. That's going to be.
It's a good goal.
That's a good goal.
So, Greg, we're going to have you at Roots Tech.
Yes, I'm so excited. Oh,
like really the only time that WikiTreeers get together in person. Roots Tech and out in Salt Lake City. We haven't been able to do it for a couple of years for obvious reasons. But so finally, again, is it late February or early March?
It's the first week of March.
2nd, 3rd, and 4th. I got my plane ticket.
He's ready.
I think Brian is going to be there. Alesh, are you going to be there?
I'm not sure yet. I'm waiting to see how Corona will evolve. Because I might not be able to enter US. Last year we weren't.
Oh no! Wow.
But I'll be there. Greg will be there.
I'll be there.
Eowyn will be there.
I'll be there.
Jamie will be there. Mindy. So yeah, it'll be a good crowd, and we can get you a T-shirt.
Excellent. Definitely. That's great. Good. Well, thank you everyone for coming out today. Any last words from anyone? What want to say?
Keep it up.
Keep it up. Okay. Well, thanks again, everyone. And stay tuned this time next week. And next week, we're going to focus on browser extensions and some of the functionality that's been added there. And so we'll take a deeper dive into that aspect of the project. And we're almost halfway through the month. It's the 13th. It's not Friday the 13th. It's not that scary. And we're doing great. So we'll continue on doing so. And we'll see you next week.